Okay, good afternoon everyone. I hope it's not raining where you are as bad as how it's raining here. It's not very nice weather out there today, but there you go. I hope everyone can see the screen, hope everyone can hear me okay. If not, just let me know in the questions section, and then I'll be able to see, or any messages that you can send through GoToWebinar. If you do have any questions throughout this presentation, throughout this webinar, then let me know. Just drop the questions in and I'll see if I can answer them at the end. And there should be enough time for some Q&A. Okay, so what we're going to be doing in this webinar is listing to eBay with Linnworks. Now, I work in the implementation team. My name's Chris, and as part of the implementation team, I do a lot of training sessions. Now, on these training sessions, the most sessions I get asked to do is about listing to eBay with Linnworks. So we thought it would be a good idea to do a webinar so that more than one person at a time can have a look and see how it goes. So, as I said, eBay listing with Linnworks. The main benefits of actually creating your eBay listings through Linnworks is that Linnworks is still acting as that central repository. It's a central repository at the moment for all of your orders and all of your stock items. So it may as well be the central place for all of your stock item information as well, where you can go and create those listings, edit those listings. Another obviously benefit is that if you've got multiple eBay listings across different eBay sites, then you'll be able to control all that information in one place. And if you're also listing to other websites that Linnworks lists to, then you'll be able to manage all of that in one place as well. Okay, so the main theme of listing to eBay with Linnworks is really in two parts. You've got your stock items, and then you've got something called a configurator. Okay, now the stock item is that record in your Linnworks inventory. So if I go into my inventory, I've just got some dummy data set up here. If you look at my inventory, I've got, to start off with, I've just got some toasters. Okay, so there's my Linnworks inventory I've got for this demonstration. Okay, so each item that you sell obviously has its own record in your Linnworks inventory. So not only can it be used for keeping all of your stock levels, as the single stock item can hold a lot of information about that product that you can use to create listings with. Okay. The second part would be the configurators that I mentioned just now. If we go into settings and configurators and then go to my eBay configurators, a configurator can essentially be split up into two parts. It's used for two different purposes. One, it can be used to house sort of generic information that will be shared across a bunch of different types of listings. Okay, so things like your returns policies, payment methods, shipping methods, things that you don't regularly change on every single listing, that is more general to the business as a whole than to each individual stock item, can all be stored on a configurator. So anything that you list with that configurator will automatically inherit all of that information without you having to input it every single time for every single item that you list. Okay. The other way you can look at a configurator is that it takes that data that you have stored against the stock item and it kind of puts it into the right place, the right format on that eBay listing. So it's essentially the configurator is controlling what information we are going to be taking from that stock item and whereabouts that information is going to be placed on the eBay listing. Okay, so let's start off very simply. Let's look at our inventory. And so the main thing, I can't stress this enough in terms of creating a good eBay listing, is just having quality data to start off with. Okay, and Linnworks can house all of that quality data. It can be the place where you store that information. So if you want to make a good quality eBay listing, you just need to know everything about that item that you're selling. You need to know as much as possible so that the buyer can make an informed decision. Okay, a listing with more information is going to fare a lot better on eBay than one that has a sparse amount of information. Okay, so the main goal here that we want to achieve is not only listing but also listing easily and in bulk. So for example, if we have a look at this tab here in Linnworks.net, I've got one toaster that's already been listed in Linnworks. Okay, I've created that listing, and what we want to do is be able to get all of these listings to be created in the exact same way. So if I wanted to, as I've already had this set up as an example, to actually go and list this now that I've got everything set up correctly, say I wanted to list those two items, I'd right click there, create listing on eBay with the configurator that I already mentioned, and it's going to create me templates for those two listings. I just got to click create, and that's going to go and start creating those listings. Now it won't take too long. eBay doesn't usually take too long to get back to us with a listing creation. And that's basically what we want to achieve for all of our listings. We want it to be that easy. We want to be able to take a stock item that already has good quality data, and we want to be able to use a configurator that is set up in such a way that makes listing all of these items quick, easy, and it's going to create a good listing at the end of the day. Okay, so let's have a look at one of these stock items then. We'll take this one at the top for now. Now when I click on the SKU, you'll see your stock item information, and it's split up into different tabs. Okay, so the main general tab here, the only part on this screen that we're really going to use for listing is that item number, the Linnworks SKU. That's going to be used as the custom label of that listing. Okay, so let's move across. We've got images. Now I've got 3 images here of the item. We've got 1 primary image and 2 secondary images there. Okay, now all of this information you can add manually to the stock item via Linnworks.net, or you can bulk import it from a CSV file. Now anything that I create here today, I'll make sure to have the CSV files downloadable so that you can see exactly how to create these ones yourself. But I'm not going to go too much into the actual getting the data into Linnworks. I just want to focus on, once you've got the data into Linnworks, what we can actually do with it to create a listing. Okay, so we've got the SKU, we've got our images. Next up, the next tab will be listing descriptions. Okay, so as I said, because this is a record of all of your stock items, of the actual stock item, we want to give it as much information as possible. So we've given it a price here. We've given an eBay specific price of $34.99. Okay. Now when I'm listing this to eBay 1 UK, it's going to use that price, the $34.99. If I was to list it to maybe a different eBay account that you have integrated, it's not going to work because I've specified that this price is only for eBay 1_UK in the subsource there. Okay. I want to go add a new price, and I can make it the source of eBay and the subsource of eBay 2_UK. Then this price is going to be used specifically for that subsource. Okay, so as I've only got eBay 1 in this demonstration, I'll just leave it as that for now. That is our price that we're going to be using for the listing. Same with product titles by channel. I say I've got one here, an eBay specific title. Now if I wanted that to be different to maybe a title that I'm going to list on another channel, then I can have a default title that is going to be used for everything else, but a title specifically for eBay 1 that I've got there as well. Okay, so we've done prices, we've done titles. Next will be a description. So the same again here, I've got one specifically for eBay 1_UK. And if I look at that description, it's just some very, very simple HTML. That's just a description about the item. It's not got anything else. It's not got any other HTML, any active content, any images, anything like that. It's just a description of the item. Okay, because the actual storefront, the HTML that we're going to be using for our store, you can see that later. Okay. I've got a question just coming. Can I manage sort order of images? Basically, long story short, you can now. As of recently, what you'll be able to do is just click and drag those images and swap them around. Maybe I want that one to be my primary. You can swap them around in that way. You can also do it as part of the import as well. How you import your images will be the order in which they display here. Okay. So we've gone through our general tab, our images tab, and our listing descriptions tab. Okay, if you've got any questions about any of those, make sure to drop them in the questions box. And let's move on to the last point that we need to look here, is that's extended properties. Now this is basically everything else. So I've done my price, my title, my description, my images, and my SKU. This information here is essentially everything else I can add to the listing and then some. Because most of these will be item specifics on eBay, okay, and all of these can be added as an extended via a CSV file as well. Yeah, so all the prices, titles in bulk, all of these extended properties can all be imported via a CSV. And the way that extended properties work, if they have 3 basic values, they've got an extended property name, an extended property value, and an extended property type. Now for listing, the type is always going to be attribute. You don't have to worry about any of those other types. Type's always going to be attribute. The name of the extended property is exactly what it is. It's just the name of it. And the value is the value of that extended property for this stock item. So the brand for this particular toaster is Morphy Richards. They've got the condition. I've got the country of manufacture. I've got an EAN. I've got a main color, a model number, number of slices, power input required, and then an actual type of toaster. Now, this information you may not know you actually need that information first off. The idea is to do a bit more research into what eBay wants from these types of listings. Okay, I know because I've looked at the category that I want to list these toasters in, that eBay prefer this information on an eBay listing for that particular category. So I've gone and added all of that information as extended properties. And I said the more information we add here, the better. So I've even gone one step further, and I'll explain a little while later, but I've even added things like a category ID. So I know that category ID that I want to list it to. I've added an expedited shipping price. I mean, I know I want to ship this. Maybe I offer free second-class shipping or 5-day shipping on this particular item. But for an expedited shipping, I'm going to charge $5.99. Okay. I haven't put anything about what courier I'm going to use yet. I'm just going to say that when I ship this expedited, it's going to be $5.99, and I want to put it into this category. Okay, so for this item, that's pretty much it. All we've done is add as much information as possible to that item. Yeah, so everything that we think we're going to need to create a listing. Okay, so what we need to do now is actually use a configurator to take all of this information and put it in the right place. So let's have a look at our configurators. So I've already got one here called toasters, but instead of using that, I'm just going to start again and create a brand new one so you can see exactly how we create one. If I go and add new, and I'm just going to call it Toasters Webinar, so we can see that what we're doing here. Okay, so account is going to be our eBay account we're listing to, in this case eBay 1. We've got the site we're listing to. We've got the currency we're listing to. A listing type, I'm going to make it a fixed priced item. And the listing duration, I'm going to make it good till cancelled. Okay. Next up, we need to enter things like our returns policy, our payment methods we require, and our shipping. Okay, so if I start with returns, pretty straightforward. I'm going to say returns are accepted. I'm going to maybe give it a 30-day return, and let's just jump into what I saved earlier and paste in my returns policy. Now, as I said, because this is stored on the configurator, not on the item itself, that means every listing that I list with this configurator is going to inherit all of these values. So every listing that I create with my Toasters Webinar configurator is going to be a 30-day return with this return policy. Okay. Same with payment. So I may offer the ability to pay immediately and maybe a PayPal as well. So there you go, I'll just pop that in there. Next up is shipping. So in the shipping, two things I definitely need is the product location. So I'm going to say my product location is in the United Kingdom. I'm just going to put Chichester, which is where I am at the moment, and my postcode. And what I'm going to do is the rest of the general settings I'm going to leave as is for now, just to make it simple. So I've got flat rate shipping with a maximum dispatch time of a day. Okay. Down at the bottom here, I can actually add the shipping services that I want to use to ship these items with. Okay. So I'm going to add one there, and if I add one, I can then double click in here, and I can see a list of everything that you would be offered when creating that listing on eBay itself. Okay. So I may want to add a Royal Mail second class. And I also may want to add a, let's say, an expedited one as well. So that's Royal Mail Track 24. If you want to if I want to list my toaster Track 24, then I can do that. Okay. Any prices for these costs, I can put them in the default value here. So I can say everything that I list with this configurator is going to be free for Royal Mail second class, and is going to cost, let's say, $2.99 to ship with there. Okay. I'm also going to say that for domestic products, my free shipping is the Royal Mail second class one there. Okay. There is a bit more information I can show here as well regards to international things. I'm going to leave that for now. We can come back to that if we got questions on them in the meantime. But for now, it's just a UK listing, shipping domestically with these services. Okay. Now that I've got that far, that is all the generic information done. Okay. So if we look at our Toasters webinar now, if we look from left to right, we've got our returns, our payment, our shipping, everything that we originally set up is all going to be there now thanks to that little wizard that we went through. Okay. The next step would be to add a category. Now in this screen, funnily enough, it's best to start at the bottom and work your way up. Okay. So on the bottom of this screen, we've got a list of all of the categories that eBay UK currently offers. Yeah. So if I use a search here, I can search toasters, and that looks like a good one there, small kitchen appliances toasters. Okay, so I'm going to press the plus button to add that to this category, to this configurator, and I'm going to tick it as default. So what this means is that every single listing I list with this configurator is going to be listing to that category. Now there are other ways that we can maybe complicate this, as in make it a bit more complex, a bit more useful for lots of different listings other than toasters, and I'll show you that towards the end. I just want to get through listing this main listing first, so I'm going to click Save. And specifications is where it gets interesting, because if I open specifications up now, eBay will tell us that because we've picked the toaster category, all of these item specifics are recommended for listing in that category. Okay, so that's why I said earlier with the research of exactly what you're going to be listing. Because I've put everything in the toasters category, it knows that all of these are recommended for a type of listing. Okay, and I've already done the hard work because I've put all of this information on my item as extended properties. So this is essentially mapping, okay, and it's mapping the information that we want to show on eBay to the information that we have in Linnworks. It's basically telling Linnworks where to put that information. Okay, so I know that main color is going to be a item specific on my listing. Okay, so if I have an extended property called main color, I can look for it in this list. This list is every single extended property I have in Linnworks. Okay, and I do have main color, so I'm going to click that one there, and I'm going to map it up. The same with everything else here. They don't have to match exactly, because remember, this is just the name that you've called that extended property, and this is the name that eBay is going to be showing it as. Okay, so for example, you've got country/region of manufacturer. I haven't called that extended property exactly that in Linnworks. I've just called it country of manufacture. But because I'm mapping them together, Linnworks now knows that any data that I've got stored against that stock item in the country of manufacture field, we want to show on eBay in the country/region of manufacture section of eBay, okay, on the item specifics. I can keep going through. I'll add brand, I'll add features, and we just go through and work that way. Okay, anything that I don't want on there, for example, unit type, I don't have anything of that in Linnworks. Maybe I should, but I don't currently have anything at the moment. So I could use something called a default value. So if I look at my default values here, there are some default values that eBay is recommending. The same for color as well. If I go back to any of these really and look at the default values, there's a list there of colors that eBay think I'm going to need. I'm not using that at the moment because I'm using an extended property. If I was to pick a default value here, then when Linnworks goes to list a bunch of toasters, it's going to look for the main color extended property. If it's got that main color extended property saved against our stock item, it'll use whatever color we've set there. If it hasn't, then it will use the default value. Okay, so I could add a default value for the unit type there. However, I could just get rid of that altogether. Okay, number of slices, I've mapped to number of slices. I think I've got that in here, number of slices. Power, I've mapped to power. And MPN, I've mapped to MPN as well. Okay, so once I've saved that, the last thing for a single listing to list those toasters will be my listing description. So this is the HTML. Okay, so if I open up this screen here, you can see it's got some HTML that I can just paste in, or I can design some here. But what it's using is it's using tags. So there's a tag here called product description. And what that does is that takes the product description of the item, the one that I showed you earlier that we saved against that stock item, and it puts it in place of this tag. Okay, there are lots of other tags I can use. I can show the SKU, I can show the barcode. We've got image ones on there. I can even show things like brand capacity in my HTML description. What I've already got prepared is some HTML. So I'm safe to just paste that in. Now you may create that HTML yourself. If you know what you're doing with HTML, you may get a company to create some HTML for you. But it's all in here and it's all making use of those tags. So for example, down here, part of this HTML, we've got product image. So we're actually taking the product image from the item and putting a link to it in place of this tag. Okay. So once I've saved that, that's ready to go. If I go back to my inventory now, I can take that toaster and I can right click and create a listing on eBay with my toasters webinar configurator. If I just do a quick search, because I don't know if you remember earlier, but I did try to list some just before we started, and I got an error on that toaster there, but one of them was listed. So let's have a look at what we've got there. We've got that toaster, and that's gone and created a listing. So let me just go and check that out. We can see that if I look this listing, it's going to have created me my listing, and it's got all of my item specifics that I had as extended properties all in here. So brand, features, number of slices. And this is what I was saying about quality data. If you've got that information in Linnworks, it's best to get as much of it as possible that's reasonable onto the listing, so that an informed, a buyer can make an informed decision of what you actually want to show. Okay, I've got someone saying, why do we need HTML, or do we not need it at all? HTML is this section down here. Okay, so up here we've just got the gallery. We can't change this. This is eBay. This is all this information is how eBay's designed it. What the HTML section of the eBay listing allows you to do is to customize it more to fit your business. So I've just got a very simple here. I've got a logo, a title, some bars to kind of separate the information. I've got an image on the left and the description on the right. Okay, now you may want to use HTML to maybe give your store more of a branded image. If everything has the same HTML template, then everything looks looks a lot more professional, because it's given a consistent theme of all of your listings. Yeah, so you may want to look into getting a HTML template maybe professionally made, or look into creating the HTML yourself, and then you can just add that to the configurator, and then every listing we list with this configurator we use the same basic template. It just gives all of our eBay shop a nice looking consistency, a nice good format there. Okay, so I'm going to go back into Linnworks.net, and that is essentially one product listed. As you can see here, if we look at this listing template, we've taken information from the item, so we can see here, and used it. So this is the mapping I was on about before. You got main color, map to main color, so it's picked up black, type, long slot toaster, and all of those were the item specifics that we were showing on the listing itself. Okay. Now, if we go back to, let's just see what that error was. Internal error application. Okay, that's just eBay. I'll go create that again. Right. So that's essentially listing single listings. Okay. So I can come into here. I can pick out all of my toasters now, and I can right-click and create listing with my toasters configurator. The way I can do that is because I've made everything consistent. The data is all consistent inside Linnworks. If I look at this toaster, even though it's just a completely different toaster, I've given it the same information. Okay, so if I have a look at my extended properties, I have given all of my toasters a brand, a condition, a country, manufacturer, features, main color. Everything is the same, and they've all got the same name, which means that when that configurator goes to pick up that information, it's looking for the same thing each time. Just because this one's red and that one's black doesn't mean I need a whole new configurator, because all the configurator is saying is pick me up the main color, which is there. Okay, so now I can go and list. If I had 50 toasters here, I can list them in bulk just by selecting all of them and right-clicking and creating a listing on eBay with my toasters configurator. Okay, now a lot of people also list variations. So a variation listing on eBay is a listing where you have multiple options all in the same one. Okay, so I've got a little example for there as well. I've got a variation listing here, and it's for some plastic water bottles. Okay, spelled wrong, but there you go, plastic water bottles. And if I open up that variation parent item, you can see all its children. So I've got different water bottles, all the different sizes and colors. I've got 5 colors and 2 different sizes, so 330 milliliters, 480 milliliters. Okay, so the only difference between this type of listing and a single listing is actually where we store that data. Okay, because on the variation parent item, I'm going to put all the information that is generic to that whole listing. Okay, so it's the same for all of the items, all of those water bottles, regardless of the color and the capacity. Okay, so for example, they're all got the same title. Okay, no matter what color the buyer picks at the end of the day, the listing is going to have the same title. The listing is going to have the same description. And if we look at our extended properties, every single water bottle that I'm making on that listing is going to be the same brand, going to have the same condition, country of manufacturer, the same eBay category, the same material, everything is the same there. Okay. If I have a look at my variation child items, they've all got an image too, but if we look at our listing descriptions, they don't have a title and a description because they don't need it, because they're all going to be the same. So there's no point in importing the same data over and over again if we've already got it stored on our variation parent. The only thing we do definitely need is a price, because I may want my higher capacity water bottles, the bigger ones, to sell for a higher price than the smaller ones. So I need a separate price for that one there as well. Yeah, the other thing I need is my extended properties. I've added a capacity and a main color to my extended properties. Now the reason I've done that is because they are the ones that are different. Okay, this particular water bottle, the black one of 480 milliliters, because this is different to all my other water bottles, I've specified that in my extended properties. Okay, so if we would go and look at a configurator for a listing like this, we're going to look at my eBay configurators. I've got a water bottle there, and I've gone through, I've done the same. They've got returns policy, payment, shipping, things like that, and category. If I look at the specifications now though, the specifications, I've just got brand and country and region manufacturer. I do not want capacity or color as a generic listing specification, because I know that they're going to change when the user picks a different style of listing, picks a different water bottle. Okay, so brand and country manufacturer are the only ones that I put there in the specifications tab. If I look at the variations tab, this is where I've added my capacity and my color. Okay, and those are mapped to capacity and color. They don't have any default values, so we're going to pick up that information from there. Now this is specifying, think of each one of these as a drop down on your final listing when you create that listing. You want a user to be able to pick their capacity and pick their color. If they're all the same size, then we can just have color in here and have capacity on the specification screen, because the size is going to be the same for all of them. In this case, because capacity and main color are different, I've changed them here so that they're different. Okay, so that they're in this screen, they're in the variations screen. If I was to go back into my specifications, as I said before, because the country of manufacturer and brand are the same regardless of the color and size of water bottle, I put that on an item specific, and I've stored it on the variation parent. The child items only contain the information that they need to differ from the other child items. Okay, once I've got that set up, I can do the exact same thing. I can right click in line with my eBay column and create listings on eBay with my water bottles extended property configurator. Now you see here it's not currently listed, and I've just picked the right category. I've got the specifications of country, manufacturer and brand, and then in my variations you can see each variant there. Okay, so I've got capacity and color, so the black 480 milliliters at $6.99. It's picked up my barcode, and it's got them all there. It's picked up the title as well. Okay, so that's all there ready to go. If I can go and create that now, it's going to create that listing, and it'll go off and create a listing exactly like it's created with the rest of them. I've got some questions coming in, so if you give me a second, I'll just read through those questions. Is it possible to add/remove items from a variation listing once the listing has already had sales, i.e. new item variations introduced from supplier, old variation discontinued from supplier? I believe so. It may be something you want to check with. Basically, if you can do it on the back end of eBay, you'll be able to do it through Linnworks as well. So if we go into our inventory and look at our variations, then you've got a variation listing here, your variation stock item here, and we've added all of those items. Now if I was to end any of those, I can go and revise those listings. I've got another question about that. I'm not able to add variation items to eBay configurators, but instead add normal items. Why might this be? On my Linnworks account, I'm not able to add variation items to eBay configurators. You'll only be able to list to a configurator that actually has variations set on them. So for example, if we have a look at these configurators here, I've got water bottles, I've got 2 variation specifics there. On toasters, I don't have any. So if I was to go into my inventory and try and list this variation to eBay, it's not going to give me the option to list it with toasters. It would have if it's got variations, but because that particular configurator doesn't have any variation options, it just doesn't give me the choice to list to it. If you want to have a look at this listing now, it's created, so let's go and see what that listing looks like. So I'm going to just go edit eBay listing. It's going to bring up the template again. I'm just going to click that URL link, and we've got my listing, and we've got different colors and sizes there as well. Okay, so let's get out of that one there, close those down. Let's come back into Linnworks. Now, a couple of things I want to show you is a way of maybe it's complicating it, but it's also speeding up the process. Okay, so we know how to create a simple configurator and list simple items with it. Okay, so if I look back in my configurators, I've got a configurator just for toasters, a configurator just for water bottles. Now, this is fine if you're not listing too many different items, because if you imagine you're maybe listing a wide range of items, then having a category for each essentially type of item, having a configurator for each one may be a bit too much to handle, because you're going to have toasters, water bottles, microwaves, dishwashers, freezers, everything that you could have, that you could sell, would have its own configurator. Now there are good and there are benefits to that, but what we can do is essentially make a configurator that is a lot more lenient, that can list lots of different items. And the way we do that is we have a look at this complex configurator here, and we have a look at things like the categories. Now, rather than just adding toasters to this one, I've added 7 different categories here. Okay. Now, when I go to list something with this configurator, it's not going to know which category to pick, okay, because it can't be listed to all 7. And this is why I added that category ID to my item as an extended property. Because what I've done here is I've mapped extended property for category 1 to an extended property called eBay UK category 1. Okay, if I have a look at my toasters again in eBay, in Linnworks, and actually look at that item and look at its extended properties, I have added eBay UK category 1 77285, okay, the actual ID. If I go back to that configurator, I have 77285 added to this configurator. Because it's added to this configurator and it's stored against the stock item on that extended property, I can go and list this toaster with this configurator that has all of these different categories in it, and it's going to automatically pick the right one. Okay, so I don't have to make one configurator for toasters, one for kettles, one for microwaves. I could list microwaves, kettles, and toasters all in the same configurator, as long as that information, as in which category I want to list it to, is saved against that particular stock item, all in the same place, in the eBay UK category 1 extended property that I've created. Okay. Similarly with things like shipping. If I look at the shipping for this, I've actually used that expedited shipping price as an extended property here. So for anything that I list with this configurator, for Royal Mail second class it's going to cost nothing, but for expedited Royal Mail first class, rather than putting a default value of say $2.99 for everything, it may cost me more to ship a fridge freezer than it does to ship a toaster. So I can add an expedited shipping price as an extended property here. Okay, so that will take that information from the stock item instead of a default value here. Yeah. Okay, once again, if you've got any more questions about that, please keep them coming through the question box. Apart from that, that is really the basics of listing through Linnworks to eBay. As I said, you just create a configurator, you get all the quality information you can onto that item as possible, and then the configurator essentially guides that information. It tells you which information you want to pick up from that stock item and where you want to put it on that eBay listing. Okay, once you've done that, for example, with my toasters here, as long as I keep to the same format, as long as I import or add all of my data in the same style as I added all the last ones, then creating that new listing on eBay is going to be very easy, because I've already done all the groundwork. I've already added my toasters configurator. So my inventory here, when I want to actually go and list that, I don't have to, when I create this new listing, I don't have to set a returns policy. I don't have to set shipping. I don't have to set the category. I don't have to add any item specifics on eBay itself, because I've added them all into this stock item here. I've done it as part of an import or manually. I've gone and added all the information that I can, so that when I come to create a listing, I'll create a new listing with my toasters configurator, and it's ready to go. It's picked up all the right information, it's picked up the right category, it's filled in the right item specifics. I can just go and click create, and that'll go and create that listing on eBay. Okay, I can do that in bulk. If I wanted to do that with 1,000 items or 100 items, I can select all of those 100 items, right click, create all of those toasters with the same configurator, and it will go and create them just like we had there. Okay, I've got another question coming through about variations again. For variation items, does a parent item need to be created within my inventory, or can it be created from all the child items that are SKUs in the inventory? Now you need to create it as its own item. Okay, so if we have a look back at that variations, this variation parent is an actual stock item. It's just got a lot less information that you can add to it. For example, it doesn't have a stock level because it doesn't actually count as a proper item, so it doesn't need a stock level. It doesn't have a purchase price. You can't buy this. It's not a real item. It's just a way that we can store data that is generic to all of the different types of child. Okay, so for example, brand, country, manufacturer, regardless of the color or size, capacity of that water bottle, it's going to have the same brand and country of manufacturer. So rather than adding it to each individual child, I add it to this variation parent. It's the variation parent that you're actually listing. If you find that variation parent inside Linnworks and go create a listing on eBay with my water bottles configurator, it's going to create a listing for that variation parent. Yeah. And it's going to take all the information it needs to that's generic from the variation parent, and then the child items it's going to use to take things like the price, the capacity, and in this case the color as well. Okay, and any images that we want to show specifically for those variation child items. Okay, if we go look at that variations again, I have added it here as a variation group. So I've gone add new, I've created that variation group, and while I created that variation group, it automatically created me an inventory item already for that. So if I go back into variations, I've gone into here, I've added a new variation group. I've said that it's plastic water bottles, spelled wrong I know, and then down here we've got everything in there as well. Okay, so all of the variation child items. Okay, are there any more questions coming through about what we've covered so far? I'll give it a couple of minutes, see if anyone wants to ask any more questions. Apart from that, there isn't really anything else I can show you that isn't very specific or very complex. For example, if we look into my eBay configurators and we have a look at the main section here on this configurator, there are a lot of different toggles here that may be specific to you. For example, charity options, whether you want to show international visibility on that listing, I think that costs a little bit extra. Whether you're part of the global shipping program, for example, these are all different toggles that you can turn on that every listing you list with this configurator will inherit that information. Okay. Can you have an item listed in as a variation and individually? Yeah, you can. It just means that you need to put that information back on the single listing. So for example, all of those toasters that we listed, so these 4 toasters here that are now all listed on eBay because we've listed them through the course of this webinar, if you wanted to list them all as a variation after they've been listed singularly, then you'll just have to create a new variation group for toasters, add all those to it, and then make sure that any generic information that is the same for all of those toasters is on the variation parent item. Now, for these toasters specifically, they've all got different brands, they've all got different sizes. It's probably not the best idea, but for example, if you had, say this one here, a Swan 2-slice toaster in red, if you had the exact same toaster but in blue, green, yellow, then you can create a variation item for all of those and list all of those individually and separately at the same time. All right, let's have a look back through these questions then. When you link items from eBay to Linnworks, are you able to import more information than just SKU and title? Not when you're linking, but we do have a new tool. Let me just find it. I don't know if it's out of beta yet, whether I actually have it on here. But it's basically an inventory extraction tool, and you'll be able to use that to extract more information than just the title and the SKU. There is documentation for that online as well. I've got multiple images. How are these displayed on eBay? Now that can be changed. That can be completely changed up to you when you go and create that listing. So if we have a look and edit this eBay listing here, so this is a variation one for multiple images. It's listed, and if I click on the images button, you can see here how many images I want to show. So I've got variation pictures associated with specific capacity or color. Now in this case, I actually want it to be color. The reason I want it to be color is because that's how the images differ. Okay, if you had an image for a 250 milliliter bottle and a 380 milliliter bottle, they're not going to look very different on eBay to the end user, but the different colors will. So in this case, what I want to do is I want to associate my images with color, and what I don't want is multiple images. So if I uncheck those ones, then when I go and revise that listing now, we're only going to be showing the images that we want to show recommended with color. Okay. Once a list, another question here, once a listing ends on eBay because it's run out of stock, will it automatically relist using the configurator originally listed with when it's back in stock? Because that listing is still controlled by Linnworks, then you'll still be able to use that configurator even once it's gone out of stock, as long as Linnworks has done the relisting, so you've relisted it through Linnworks. So if you look in your channel edit screen where you've got the option to relist listings when items come back into stock, you'll still be able to manage that listing using the same configurator. Okay, let's have a look at some other questions. On some occasions when we're getting error in our eBay listing, which is quantity must be greater than 0, and this error doesn't change through the product quantity is back in stock. Could we please be advised on this? One thing to check on that would be if it's not listed. So if you've created a listing or you tried to create a listing and you've got an error come up here, instead of where it says green listed, you'll have an error, and when you hover over that error it may say you can't create the listing because you've got no stock for it. The stock level is 0. Okay, fair enough. We can't create a listing if the stock level is 0. If you've only got that far, then it hasn't actually created a listing. So what the best bet to do on there would probably be just to delete that template altogether. You can just select that template and click delete. Once that listing template is deleted, you can go and list it again with the correct stock. However, if you just press update, if you've got stock level in Linnworks in the correct location, then it should allow you to do it, no problem. Can all the info be copied or transferred across to different websites that you list to? It can, because it's all generic. So because it's all in one central location, if we look at my inventory and if we pick up, for example, that toaster and we look at the extended properties, that brand isn't eBay specific. It's not just going to be, you're not going to have an eBay brand, Amazon brand, Magento brand, BigCommerce brand, for example. You just need that one record in there saying this is the brand. It's completely devoid of any links to any channel, any specific channel. All you're doing is then taking the configurator and saying, okay, with this configurator, I want to pick up that information, that brand, and put it on this eBay listing. If you wanted to use that same information for a Magento listing, for example, then in your Magento configurator, you do the same thing. I'd say, okay, well on Magento, I want to show brand. I want to pick it up from the same place. So it means you only have to input that information once, and then you can use that same generic information to list across multiple different marketplaces. Okay, still got a lot more questions coming in, so bear with me, I'm just reading through them here. On your inventory page, you have listed on eBay, not listed on eBay tabs. I don't see them on my login. How do I create these tabs? That is an excellent question, and it's really, really useful. So what I've got here, I've got the not listed on eBay and listed on eBay. And the way I've done that is if you click add, you can add a new view. Now a view is essentially a way of deciding what information is shown on your inventory screen and for what stock items. So you can filter different stock items. You can filter the what information is showed on that screen as well. Okay, so on my not listed on eBay tab, if I go and edit this view, you'll see exactly how I created it. What I've done is I've shown everything. So I've gone add a new filter, and I've added a filter to say, okay, channels. It's not there at the moment, it would be eBay 1, not listed. Okay, so show me everything that is not listed on eBay 1. I've also just done another quick one to show me everything that was in the toasters category. Okay, and then down here in the columns I've said, okay, show me my image, my SKU, my title, my barcode, my level, and my Linnworks category. Okay, I didn't see any point in showing things like minimum stock level, stock value, purchase price, things like that when I'm listing, because I don't need all that information when I'm listing. The only information I need when I'm listing is basic information about the stock item, so I know which item I can list and which item I can't. The same with channels down here. I've gone and added my eBay channel as a column. So as you can see, the same as listed on eBay, I've got my channel column there, so I can right click and actually create with the toasters configurator. Yeah. If I edit this view, it's exactly the same, except I've got eBay 1 is listed. Okay, if I was to delete that, I'll show you exactly how I added it again. I'll click add new, I'll go to the channels, go eBay 1, and I can pick listed, not listed, has listing errors, only show me ones with listing errors or without errors. So I could go and get somebody to create a bunch of listings and then have a view that only shows me those listings where I've got listing errors, so I can go and fix them. Okay? So hopefully that's pretty straightforward. You just create a new view and then you add as many filters as you need onto that. Okay? We already list on ebay.co.uk. To list on eBay FR, do we need to do anything differently? Our listing for France are currently not showing on search results. Okay, so there's different levels of basically listing internationally on eBay. If you were to just turn on international site visibility, for example, then you'd be able to see those listings from eBay FR, but it wouldn't necessarily be a great listing for eBay France because it's all in English. Yeah. So what you can do is you can have, for example, if we look at this toaster, you could have an extended property called brand FR, for example, and you can have, well, brand would be the same, but for things like features, that's a good one. So frozen and cancel buttons, crumb tray, and a variable width slots. You can translate that into French and then create a features FR extended property that has that information in French. You can then create a configurator that's listing not to eBay 1 UK, but to eBay 1 France. And then rather than picking this extended property on the configurator, you'll pick the French one. The same for listing descriptions. If we look at this toaster here, we've got a price for eBay 1 underscore UK. If we wanted that to be different for France, then I can go eBay. Let's do that in caps just to be sure. eBay 1 underscore FR, and the price may be 18, maybe cheaper because that's euros, not pounds. Okay, so that's going to be used specifically for my eBay FR listing. It's not going to pick up that one, it's going to pick up that one. The same with title. I can go and translate that into a French title and then add it back into here as an eBay 1 underscore FR, and then that will be used. I don't have to tell Linnworks to pick up the FR title when it goes and creates a listing on eBay France. Linnworks knows it's listing to eBay France and it knows there is an eBay France title available, so by default it's going to use that. Okay, so you don't have to map anything special there. What else have we got on our questions? Let me just scroll down. Is it possible to create a configurator from existing listings? Not at the moment through Linnworks.net. If you go into Linnworks desktop, there is a feature that will allow you to kind of list backwards, but it's not very fast. It's not a speedy process to go through. It's one by one, so if you were going to do it in bulk, it's probably not the best way forward. If it was for just a couple of listings that you really didn't want to lose the sales history on, then I can see you maybe using that tool, and there's more information in our documentation about that. But if you're thinking about doing it in bulk, it's probably not the best way forward. You probably just maybe start listing items just gradually, ending them and relisting them through Linnworks if you want to take control of them that way. Okay, we've run out of questions as well. I think I've answered them all. If I haven't, just reply them again and I'll see them. I'll give it a couple of minutes. We're coming to the end of the hour anyway, so I'll give it a couple of minutes for any more questions to come through. I hope it's been enlightening anyway, to say the least. And yeah, I'll just sit here for a little bit longer while any more questions come in. If you do have any questions, let me know. If not, have a nice day. Oh yeah, a couple more questions coming in now. Okay, is this the same process for Amazon? It's similar. You just got to create a configurator for that channel. The same for Magento and BigCommerce. You just go and create a configurator. Each configurator is going to be different because obviously each channel requires different information. But it's a very similar process. You just start from left to right. You fill in all the details you need on the configurator, and then you can use the exact same information that you used for all of these listings that you listed on eBay. On my Linnworks account, I'm not able to add variation items to eBay configurators, but can add. Oh, okay. Right, let me just read some of these questions. Can we manage sort order of images? You can on the item itself. So if we look into our item and look at images, well, I've only got one image on there anyway. I think it's that one. I've got multiple images on. If we look at the images, we can drag and drop them so that you say maybe that is your primary image, that's your secondary image. But you can also do that in terms of the import as well. So the order in which you import them in a CSV file will also be the order in which they're displayed here. Okay, so that will be the order that the images show on eBay. Let's have a look at some of the other ones. We've also someone saying that they're not able to add variation items to an eBay configurator, but can add normal items. It may be better, if you want to test it out, is creating your eBay configurator and creating one configurator for single items, one configurator for variation items. So maybe I've got toaster variation, I'll create a new configurator for that. It's just a lot simpler to get your head around rather than saying, okay, this configurator is working in this way for single items and this way for variation items. If you've got one variation configurator and one single listing configurator, then it's very much easier to manage. And once you've made these configurators, they're there, they stay there, they can be used for the next 100 toasters that you go and list. So it is a little bit of work. It may even look like a little bit more work than listing directly to eBay on the get-go for this. But once you've laid that groundwork, that foundation of having this configurator that you know isn't going to change and is always going to pick up the right information, then it's beneficial, because then you don't have to add your returns, your payment, your shipping, your categories, any specifications to each toaster in this case that you list, because we're always going to pick it up from the same information from the same place anyway. How do I set up a configurator to ship just to France? That's in the main section of the configurator. So if I go and add a new configurator, the site is here. So I can do site of France. You'll just pick it up. So it's still listing to account eBay 1, but it's going to list the site France. Once I change that, then all of the shipping options, all of the category specifications will all be from eBay FR. So you'll be able to see them all in there. Okay. What we got here? Back to listing in bulk. If we have thousands of lines that are on existing eBay listings, can part of the listings just have price and inventory controlled from Linnworks and the channel mapping is in place and the new lines added to use the Linnworks listing method? Yes, that's exactly what you can do. Now, the way the eBay API works means that for existing listings that are already listed on eBay, Linnworks can change the stock level and it can change the listing price. So if you have a listing price set here, the listing price has to be in that format. It has to be, for example, here, eBay1_UK. As you can see here, there's a status, and that is, at the moment I haven't changed it, so there's no status there, but what will happen is that we can change that price just like we change stock level. If you go and change this price here to a different price, it's going to go and make that change on eBay if we have the right settings set up to do that. So if I go into my channel integration, actually look at my eBay channel, there is an option to enable price sync. So exactly like inventory sync, which I haven't got enabled here anyway, there's also price change. If I was to check those boxes, then any new eBay specific prices, they have to be specific to the geographical location as well. So if it has to be an eBay1_UK price in that field. If it's that price, then we'll use it to update eBay. The same with inventory. And then, anything else, any new lines you can then list through a configurator, and then you'll be able to change the images, descriptions, titles, extended properties, HTML, returns policy, all of that, all through Linnworks. But those ones that were listed on eBay to begin with that you don't want to relist again through Linnworks, you can still change the price and the stock level through there. Okay. If you update, say, your returns policy on the configurator, will it then automatically update all live listings? The way you do that is, if we look on our eBay configurators, if I was to make a change to one of these configurators, see that toasters, let's just refresh that, so I've got the latest information on there. If I look at my eBay configurators, I've got toasters, I've got 4 single listings and no variation listings listed on the toasters configurator. For water bottles, I've got 0 normal listings but 1 variation listing. If I was to go and change the returns policy on here, then all I need to do is select that configurator and hit up here and go revise selected. Then I can choose what I want to update. If I just tick all of them, then it will just revise the entire configurator. So if I was to change the returns policy in here and I had 500 toasters listed on this toasters configurator, then I can update my returns policy, my shipping, my PayPal, my PayPal information or payment information, all in bulk across all of the listings that are listed with that configurator with just one click of revising the selected configurator. I can even select more than one, so I can select both those configurators and revise both of those. So that will revise all my toasters and my water bottle with the same one there. Will this session be available to watch again at a later date? I have pressed the recording button, so it is being recorded, so I'll send that over to the marketing team after we finish the session, and they'll send you an email with a link to the YouTube video where you can watch this back. So hopefully it's been useful enough that you'll be able to get some worth out of it by watching it back at a later date. Okay, I'll leave it a couple more minutes to see if we've got any other questions coming in. Any questions that I didn't answer, log a support ticket with our support team. They'll be able to answer that question for you if there's any that I've missed. I update the description to remove active content. If it's been listed through Linnworks, then yeah. So in your description here, this will be your HTML that may have some active content in it. I know eBay have been a stickler at the moment for getting rid of active content from your HTML. So if everything was listed through Linnworks, then Linnworks has complete control over this HTML. So if I was to go and update this HTML description here to remove any active content, any JavaScript in there that eBay don't approve of, then it will just be a case of updating that description and then revising that configurator, and then everything listed with that HTML template will be changed. Okay, so it's no consolation if you've already listed it through through another means, so directly on eBay or with another tool, because Linnworks doesn't have control to change that description. But if it has been listed through Linnworks, then you can go and change that description at a later date, no problem. Can we get a copy of the HTML script for the configurator template you showed us at the start? You can. It's pretty simple, but if you want to use that one, then I think it is available. If not, there are some other ones that I think we have made available recently. So what I'll do for the email that we send out to all of the attendees of the webinar, not only will I include hopefully a video of this, I'll also include the HTML that I've used here, or any better one that I can find, and we'll also see if I can also add the files that I used to actually import this data in the first place. Okay, that's a good question. Which toaster is best for crumpets? Now, I'm not a toaster expert, but I'd say I'd probably go with this one. I think it's the more expensive one, but there you go. You get your money's worth, especially if you're going for crumpets there. Right, any other questions? Price linking and mapping. If a price is not specified in the channel configuration of the SKU item for eBay but is mapped to the item, will no price change be carried out? So can we have the price sync running and in effective only changing prices that have channel price set up? Yes, because we will only update a price, when we're going listing descriptions, we'll only update a price that is eBay1_UK, like that. Okay, so if I was to delete that price, then we're not going to take any other price. We're not going to take the retail price. We're not going to take even a default price in there. So I could add a default price. When I go to list this now, when I go to list this, it's going to take this price, but that's just for the listing. On the normal price update, the price sync, we're not going to use this price because it is not an eBay UK price. Okay, so that's just a little, it's kind of like a security measure in there to make sure that people aren't accidentally importing the wrong prices and then bulk updating all those prices to show the wrong information. It needs to specifically be an eBay 1 or eBay 2, whatever your subsource is called, _UK price for the pricing to pick it up and work with it. Not sure if it was, okay, Shopify configurators. We can't list the Shopify at the moment. I believe it's something that's being looked into. We're looking into basically creating a whole new way that we create these listings anyway in the back end, so that we can plug more channels into it. At the moment we've got eBay, Magento, BigCommerce, and Amazon. I think we are looking to add more in the near future. So, all right. Any more on there? Can we control those items on eBay still? You can. Any listing that you create through Linnworks, you can change on eBay, but any of those changes won't be sent back to Linnworks. So if you go and update your description on your eBay site directly through the back end of eBay, that data isn't going to be added to your Linnworks stock item. You'll have to add that to Linnworks itself. Okay, that's probably it for questions. As I said, any other questions, feel free to log a ticket with the support team. They'll happily answer you there. Okay, yeah, so have a nice day, everyone. See you later.